the business-to-business e-commerce space is still relatively small if you compare it to the business-to-consumer space. But unlike the business-to-consumer e-commerce space, which is very well documented, the business-to-business e-commerce data is not as freely available in South Africa. So at this stage, it's really difficult to conclusively comment on the size of the local market, especially when you compare it to what's happening in your global markets. So I cannot put a number to it, but compared to the business to consumer space, it's still relatively small, and uptake has been on the low side. We have seen an increase in demand in this space. Companies are driven by things like innovation and fiscal factors, which ultimately will drive the adoption of business-to-business e-commerce. So I do anticipate growth in this segment. As a company, just this week, we've had on the smaller side, clients walking in looking for automation in this area to allow for e-commerce to happen, because it will help them essentially. As the option is becoming available and becoming cheaper, and if you want to look at the success of the business-to-consumer market, I definitely believe we're going to see an increase in appetite. If you look at where we are with online marketing at this stage, it is so beneficial to these organizations to actually tap into this. The level of targeting that we can do today reduces the risk of traditional advertising. Effective targeting down to industry, down to interest groups, down to positions or functions within an organization. This is all possible in today's setup. So it's when planned properly and when implemented properly, the organization stands a chance to speak directly to the intended audience. And if done properly, the impact should be not only driving traffic to a website, because I mean ultimately that's not the goal. The goal is to create conversions. So the effectiveness of your strategy is important, that you set it up properly, that you speak to the right people, and that your messaging and your call to actions are right. If you look at a number of these companies, it's still very old school, especially in the supplier space, especially in the business-to-business space. Within the retail market, which is consumer-facing, we've seen a lot of innovation. What they're doing at the moment is really world-class. But a lot of the business-to-business organizations are still focused on old methodologies. And beyond that, if you look at the systems within these organizations, some of them have legacy systems, some of them have multiple systems, and some of them have no systems at all. So a large integration needs to happen across the organization, because ultimately when you start going the business-to-business e-commerce route, it's not just a sales thing, but the impact of that decision on your sales function is huge. The impact on billing and finance is massive, but it also has operational impact. So there's a lot of factors to consider before you make that move. And then the other major issue that we have in South Africa is skills shortage. So it's finding the right people with the right skill sets to implement and develop these kind of systems for you in-house. Another reason why organizations struggle or to make this move is because of the training that is also required internally from a staff training perspective. Because, as I said, it's not just a sales thing, it impacts the business at large. But, you know, we get used to doing things, and these companies, some of them have been around for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you know, and there's a way of doing things. And now to change this methodology, I think there may be a fear in the marketplace. So it's not only an internal staff training component that needs to happen, but there is also a client training a client training element to this conversation that we need to discuss. The reality is that sales largely is based on relationship. And if you've had a relationship with a particular company and a particular person within that organization for the last X amount of years, and now to take away that element also becomes an issue to some of these organizations. So I believe these are the factors that organizations are challenged with.